Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. My name is Jimmy Good, and joining me this week on this show is my good friend, Levi. Levi, how's it going, pal?
Hey, how's it going, James?
Oh, very good. Oh my gosh, you're calling me James. I feel so like I'm in trouble or royal. I don't know which. But yes, thank you to all of our Legionnaires who are joining us here again, and for everybody else who's new here, welcome. Every week we like to talk about movies, TV shows, video games, all that type of stuff. We're going to talk about Star Wars: The Last Jedi this week, and we're going to get into it in a little bit. We have a little bit of news to talk about first, which is actually big news, and then we'll start talking about that. So if you want to jump around, if you want to avoid the spoilers and stuff too, there will be time codes down in the comments or right above the comments in the description below. So, news, Levi. We finally got confirmation that Disney purchased a bunch of Fox for $52.4 billion. Not just like some spare pocket change Disney's got sitting around. It's quite a pretty penny. And I wanted to discuss just a few of the things that they picked up. And I want to go down this list, and I want you to give me kind of a yay or nay. There's a good thing, bad thing. You let me know. All right. So, first off, Disney now has all like the rights back to Star Wars: A New Hope. Good or bad?
Good. Sure.
I don't know. The real reason that's kind of interesting, Levi, is because they could re-release the theatrical cut that people haven't seen for a long time. The only one you can kind of buy right now officially is the George Lucas kind of remastered stuff. So,
Never
yeah. How about the Alien franchise?
Don't care.
Don't care. Joe would just be like, no, because they also I think they got Predator as well. So maybe we could get like a really good Alien versus Predator if they both.
Yeah.
Or maybe like an attraction. I don't know, at Disney. It's not the first time they've done an Alien style thing, or aliens appeared in a ride actually. Anyway, Planet of the Apes.
Sure. Yeah.
The Simpsons.
Cool. Cowabunga, dude.
Apparently, almost 20 years ago, they kind of called this because there's like an image of like 20th Century Fox somewhere, and it said like a division of the Walt Disney Corporation. So Simpsons is like really good at predicting weird stuff like this. How about if not Simpsons, Family Guy?
Sure.
Yeah. Kingsman.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Buffy.
The Vampire Slayer?
Correct.
What? I thought UPN had those guys. Sure.
Oh, which was Fox. Anyway.
Was it? Of course it was.
Avatar, and I'm not talking Last Airbender. I'm talking Tall Blue Folks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which makes sense because they,
James Cameron is like whatever.
Yeah, they're making like 4 sequels, and they've got a part of their park in Animal Kingdom is now Avatar. And then the last big 2 that I just want to briefly mention: X-Men.
Yes.
And Fantastic Four.
Nos. Nose.
Okay. Wait, no to Fantastic Four? You're like, get rid of them.
I mean, if we can see a good Fantastic Four, let's do it.
Sure. So out of all those ones, is there any that stand out to you specifically that you are most excited about?
I always love me some good X-Men.
Yeah.
I'm kind of bummed, though, because we had this cool trend starting with, rated R X-Men and more edgier X-Men. And I'm hoping that Disney realizes what the fans want. And
that's an excellent thing to bring up, Levi, because Bob Iger, he commented on this because people are like, oh, no, they're going to get Deadpool and they're going to make it, PG-13. He's not going to be R-rated anymore. And he said that there is still going to hopefully be a space for R-rated movies like superhero movies moving forward as well, potentially. We probably won't see the Disney logo in front of it, and they've done stuff like this with, I think, like Paramount, or is it Miramax or something, or Touchstone in the past, that's what it was. And it's not unheard of. So we'll probably still get our R-rated superhero films. They won't be as prevalent probably as these other ones, but don't worry about that. I think they'll do that. I heard somebody say that it'd be kind of funny to have Deadpool do a PG-13 movie where they bleeped him out the whole time and he knew he was getting bleeped out, so like he gets really frustrated about it, and then the next standalone where it's R again, he's just like letting it all go. I don't know, that'd be kind of fun. But Logan obviously did really well too, so there is a market for that stuff. Personally, I'm excited about X-Men as well. Is there any character in particular from X-Men that you want to see in the MCU today?
I would love to see some Wolverine. I know that he's done, but I would love to see some Wolverine. I'm a huge fan of Cyclops, too. They never really did him right, and I would love to see their take on it. Yeah. Young Cyclops had this, bright future for him going that they started rebooting him with, and I would love to see a good Cyclops for sure.
I think you make a really good point there, and I think Cyclops has always been kind of this like he's been too Boy Scoutish. I know he is kind of a Boy Scout, but especially against Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, it was kind of like, oh, you know, James Marsden was like, I'm just here as a foil to Wolverine. He doesn't really get to do too much. And they don't really do a lot with him. And I'm right there with you. I would love to see him like lead the X-Men and be a cool person that people look up to instead of kind of look down on, or like, hey, I don't want to hang out with him. He's all just like, where's Jean? Why is Jean gone? You know, it's like, come on, man, keep it together. So yeah, Cyclops is a good pick. I think for me, I would love to see, you know, Magneto introduced. I don't know if it's too late to have him be Scarlet Witch's dad. I think they could still work it in there somehow, but I would really love to see that because they need to use the word mutant. Like, seriously, that's one of the biggest things they're going to get for their movies. Like, we can use the word mutant now. It's not enhanced or whatever. So, sure. Yeah.
Has there been any confirmation of crossover X-Men now?
Yeah, so that's the thing. They had, like, Kevin Feige, he said a while ago that they had, like, 20 more movies in the works, and I think that if this deal has kind of been in the works for a while, maybe a few of those movies have been considerations, and I wouldn't be surprised for them to say like, hey, you know what, even if they weren't, you know, considering X-Men and Fantastic Four moving forward, that they definitely should, because those are such big characters and big groups within Marvel that I think that really helps flesh out some places, especially when we might be losing a lot of the Avengers because of just the actors' contracts being up. So I think this is a great time for the X-Men and Fantastic Four to come into the fold, as opposed to, you know, maybe halfway through all this Thanos stuff, like, oh, we got to cram the X-Men there and somehow and all that other thing. So
20 more X-Men movies or 20 more
20 more MCU films were like in development right now, is what he said.
Oh, it's just years and years. It'll never end.
Oh yeah, it won't ever. No. They don't want it to end. That's the thing. Is they just got to keep it going for as long as they possibly can. So yeah, I'm right there with you though. I'd love to see Cyclops. Wolverine, they got to recast. Unfortunately, like Hugh Jackman's out, and if not, like they get him in for like one movie, and then like he's getting up there a little bit. They want to cast probably pretty young so they can get like some 5'3", just like super shredded guy to go, hey, bub, you know, bring that in. But yeah, I'm excited actually for Fantastic Four because I love Doctor Doom, and they could do Galactus eventually after Thanos, because after Thanos, it's kind of like you need another super duper crazy villain. So maybe they'll pitch him down the line. I don't know. But are you excited about this whole merger, not just because of the X-Men and Fantastic Four, any of these other properties? Do you like this, or are you kind of like, oh, Disney's trying to eat everything?
Yeah, I mean, just personal opinion, I'm kind of over Planet of the Apes right now.
Sure. Did you see War, by the way?
I didn't. God, people are going to chastise me for this, but I loved James Franco in the first one. I thought that was a great duo. That, like, you know, he was working with the apes and stuff like that. And you know, I'm bummed that they didn't bring him back for future installments. I know that it wasn't about the humans, but that's an important part of it. Is the relationship between the humans and the apes. And yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. You know, if it weren't for Andy Serkis's amazing performance, I think those films would be not as compelling. Because I understand what you're saying. It's like I wish James Franco would have continued out throughout the rest of these, because I do kind of miss him, especially in the second and then third one. But I really like Caesar, and I think if you watch the last one, you'd be like, it's okay, it's been enough time. But
I mean, I'll give it a shot. I love anything by Andy Serkis, so I'll give it a shot for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That guy. We'll talk about him later, I'm sure. But I think he's one of the greatest actors of our time. He's so good. But yeah, any other feelings towards any of these other franchises? I mean, I know you love Family Guy, man, so you're just so excited.
Disney's gonna... I mean, it's about time that a company got to step in and finally cancel Family Guy. Yeah, I mean, let's see what happens. Family Guy is fine. I mean, it's probably going to be an ongoing thing for many more years to come, just like Simpsons. So, and I don't even know how Simpsons is doing. I haven't watched it in quite a long time.
That's a good question. I haven't watched it in a while either. I think obviously it's doing well enough to get renewed through 30 seasons worth. Whereas I think Family Guy, they had like 3 or 4 seasons way back in the day, and then they got canceled or shelved, and then they came back, you know, after a while, and now they've been doing all right too. I don't know what those numbers are like, you know. I'm not really sure, but obviously they're doing something right to keep them around, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know how Disney will try to fit all of that in if they want to, but it starts to get weird, you know, talking about that versus like movie and TV rights versus like attraction or like theme park rights, because Simpsons has a pretty big foothold in Universal. So something else to think about down the line. Pretty crazy. Yeah. But yeah, I think X-Men and Fantastic Four are the most exciting to me. I just can't help it. And the Star Wars thing is pretty cool. I think for people who want to see the original theatrical cut of that film, if Disney could release that would be a big win, especially now after this last movie came out. So yeah. There is other news this week, but it pales in comparison to what the real news is. Yes, we will be talking about Star Wars: The Last Jedi. So here's how we normally do this. We talk spoiler-free for a little bit here, kind of give our general thoughts on things. I did a review of it, so if you want to see that, that is also spoiler free. You can check it out right over here. But if you want to avoid the spoiler discussion, which I will time code all of this down in the description below, you can skip right after that. But this first little part will be there. We will let you know. I will flip the magical spoiler switch. It's right over here. And when I flip it, the spoiler sparks will come out and hit me in the face, and it will burn. There are a lot of spoilers in this one, so I'm sure it'll be pretty.
Do we have a budget for that graphic?
Not yet. But if you imagine it, it's quite the show. Anyway, Levi, tell me briefly, without spoiling anything, what's the plot of Star Wars: The Last Jedi?
What is the plot?
Yes.
Bunch of lightsabers and a bunch of space battles galore, and filling up the bus with gas. That's pretty much the biggest analogy I could think of for this movie. Is like literally that's like the theme for the whole movie is let's get this bus moving because we're running out of gas.
I really wish we were like well known enough so that we could put that quote on the back of the box. It's like filling up the bus with gas.
I mean, really, that's what the movie is about. I mean, I just read a review the other day, and I'm like, wow, I didn't realize. I guess that's really what happens in this movie. No, in all seriousness, no, it's fantastic. Loved it. It's very divided right now. I get it. This is our personal opinions. Keep in mind, viewers, but I freaking loved it. I thought it was great. I love you know I love my set pieces. Good settings, good music, good acting, very good acting. Mark Hamill.
All right.
Yeah.
Filling up the bus with gas isn't good enough. You're trying to get people to go see this movie, Levi. How are you going to get them to see it?
Don't listen to the reviews. That's how you people not go see it. Don't listen to the reviews. If you want a great action film with good acting, good characters, good music, go see this film. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm going to do this. So it picks up right after Force Awakens, all right? Because we got to tell them where it starts because people want to know a little bit about it. But the reason you say filling up the bus with gas is there's an Imperial, well, I should say the First Order. They're not Imperials, but they're attacking that rebel base we saw in Force Awakens, and they're all trying to evacuate. The problem is, while they're evacuating, they do not have enough to... well, they jump to light speed once, but then they get tracked by the First Order. And they're still being tracked by them. They're like, how did you do that through light speed? So they've run like they can't. If they jump one more time to light speed, that's all they'll have. Then they'll be dead in the water. They don't have enough fuel or gas, as it were. So basically, it becomes a very slow chase sequence where the First Order is chasing the Resistance as they kind of slowly move through space. Meanwhile, we have Finn and newcomer Rose who have to go and try to find a code breaker that they can smuggle onto the First Order ship to break this tracking device, and Rey is off training with Luke. That is the general base of this plot, without spoiling anything else.
Filling up a bus with gas. Yep.
Filling up a bus with gas. Okay, but you said you loved it, Levi. Now, without spoiling anything, what is there any, besides like the acting and stuff, is there any particular character you just really like, or any particular set piece from a trailer where you're like, I like that? Is there anything like that you...
Mark Hamill kills it in this film. He's getting heralded as like great acting for this film. It's just a great return to form for him. We haven't seen him for a while, at least on a big screen, and man, he does it well. A lot of people were really nervous he was going to be whiny like he was back in the day. That Mark Hamill is gone. This is an aged, mature Mark Hamill. This is a very conflicted Jedi past master who is very conflicted with the Force right now. Very hermit-like. He's cut himself off from the Force. And you see that, and he does a very good job portraying that character.
I have to echo that completely. I think it's not just Mark Hamill. I think he's always been a good actor. I think he's just really come into this role particularly. Like, I think Luke is the most fascinating to me that he's ever been, because Luke, in A New Hope, he's very whiny. And then you get him in Empire, and he's kind of brash. And then you get him in Return of the Jedi, and he's pretty cool. Like, he's kind of competent, but at the same time, he does make a few still brash decisions. Now he's just like, I'm just living my life. Like, I don't want to be pulled back into this. I told people to leave me alone. Like, I don't want to deal with this.
Yep.
But I love his kind of him finally getting to be a mentor and us getting to see that. and see how kind of grizzled and angry he's become with everything, and just kind of like, I'm sick of everything else in this galaxy. Just leave me alone. I just want to die. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
And we've seen this before. We've seen this hermit-like character before in Ben Kenobi. Excuse me. And, it wasn't as interesting in A New Hope. We didn't really, I don't think anybody really cared at the time. Like, oh, we don't know your backstory, because no one knew the whole backstory of Star Wars. But people really care. They're like, wow, what has Luke been up to? What is going on with him,
Yeah.
People's been yammering, like, what is going on with this character?
Yeah, that's true. And we have a kind of a similar situation, like you said, with Obi-Wan. But it's like there's like that 20-year gap between, 3 and 4, and now like, 6 and 7, or 6 and 8, however you look at it, where those two guys basically like got to a point, and then they were just like, I'm just going to be alone and hang out by myself. So it's like, okay, I still want to know what kind of happened a little more in those years, but I don't know if we'll get the Luke Skywalker like solo movie. That'd be pretty cool. But
oh my gosh, I would love it. That would be freaking fantastic.
That'd be really cool.
Hey,
I wonder
it could happen. I'm sure Mark Hamill would be down. So
yeah, oh for sure. He I remember reading an interview where he met up with George Lucas, and George told him that they were going to make a new trilogy, and that George wasn't going to be involved, and that he like Hamill should probably there would probably be a call for it. And he's like, I tried to play it off like really cool, just like whatever. But he's like, but inside, I was like, yes, I'm going back. So yeah, Hamill I think enjoys Star Wars to some extent. It's changed a little bit over the years, but anyway, besides him, I think both the sound design, and we were talking about this right before we started shooting this, but like the musical score, John Williams, like one of the greatest like artists of our time, but really coming back. Like the new stuff's great, the old stuff, they play some of the greatest hits kind of thing, mixes into this just like beautiful, just like really, really good, just musical quality that at times, like the Resistance has this new theme that was in Force Awakens as well, that kind of reminds me of some of the stuff he used to do for Indiana Jones. It's like the reverse version of like the German army, which is kind of cool, but it sounds really good. It's very like fanfare and like we're fighting, but everything's got this kind of dark tone to it because everything is a little bit dire, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Is there anything else though you want to talk about, spoiler free, that you liked or maybe didn't like?
I've heard this from a couple of friends of mine that have seen the film, and they make a good point. It's got a little bit of too much Marvel-esque in there. Too many maybe jokey parts that ruin the tone. While the jokey parts were funny, super funny, and actually didn't ruin the viewership and pull you out of the experience. Maybe too much. Too much.
Maybe they just held on. Like some of those jokes, they just went on a little too long.
Yeah, a little too long. And I mean, the first line in the movie is Poe saying "your mom" to Hux.
Yeah, one of the first lines is that. Yeah.
Very different for the Star Wars film. I can see where some criticisms are coming from fans, but if you could look past that and get with the times and realize like that's where we're at with movies right now. There's a lot of what's the word called, humor relief. I'm trying to think.
Oh, it's a comic relief or levity.
Comedic relief. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think my problem, we could talk about this a little bit later if we want to, but, this film and then like Thor Ragnarok was another thing too, and I should have known from the font on Thor Ragnarok, but both these movies, I think, to a lot of people should have been more serious, or at least their predecessors had been more serious. So injecting even more comedy, even though comedy was present in those other ones, it's a little jarring, a little unsettling for some, and it's like, we'll see.
And, it didn't, like I said, it didn't pull me out of the experience like Thor did. It really didn't. It didn't ruin the experience for me. It didn't need to be so jokey. And I hope with this third film, kind of like they did with Return of the Sith, let's just really hammer in the darkness. Let's really dig in and,
You mean Return of the Jedi or Revenge of the Sith?
Revenge of the Sith, sorry.
Okay, so make sure. Well, originally I think the third one was going to be Revenge of the Jedi, but I mean the sixth one was going to be that. But Revenge of the Sith is what a great title. Anyway, is there anything else you want to say spoiler free before we move on to when I flip the spoiler switch over here? I'll say a few things before that though.
No. I mean, we've got some great character development from Rey. You and I have talked about this before, and no one really cared what was wrong with her in the first film. She didn't give anything for you to really care about. And this film feels like Rey's actually fighting for something. She's fighting for an identity. She's looking for an identity. she's always been looking for that parental figure within Han Solo, and now Luke Skywalker, and she's trying to find it, and gives you something to care about, gives you something to look forward to with her development. So
I agree with you. I guess I would say to anybody who's on the fence about this, and they're still probably going to want to see it, and they don't want to get into spoilers, I would say that if you are a Star Wars fan, you've probably already seen it or are planning on seeing it. If you aren't a Star Wars fan, I think that you might be a little confused going into this one if you haven't seen The Force Awakens, because it picks up immediately after that. This is the first time in any Star Wars film that we've kind of gone back to back, really, and gone immediately, like, from the moment the last one cut to the next one, even though there's a chance that it was shot like out of time a little bit with the other alternating storylines. So I would say you probably should watch Force Awakens first and then go watch this one. But I think if you're just like into action and into just like high quality of just effects and kind of a big and crazy world or universe or galaxy, that this wouldn't be the worst time to go and see this in a theater. Or if you want to watch this, then you're peaked to be like, oh, I kind of want to know the backstory of these characters. This one doesn't really stand alone. And that's the problem with a lot of these movies. They're becoming more like TV shows, where it's kind of like if you watched episode 3 of season 2, you might think like, what the heck is going on? So I'd recommend you probably watch Force Awakens and then go see this one. But
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think we both recommend to go see it, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, be prepared. Go into it with an open mind. Be prepared that this film will kill your childhood. It will.
No, it's not going to kill your childhood. No,
it will kill your childhood.
It's not going to kill your childhood. The only one who kills your childhood is you. Because you know what, you gotta let that stuff. I'm sorry, but like this for a lot of people. Even Mark Hamill said, he's like, if you go into these movies expecting it to recapture your childhood, don't do it, because it'll never live up to that expectation. Nothing ever will. I'm
trolling because I love this film, and it didn't ruin my experience or my thoughts of the original or the new prequel or anything like that. Yeah, like you said, go into it with an open mind and go into it knowing that this is a separate product. It's a separate piece of art, and give it a shot for what it is, and stop living so much on nostalgic things. Well, yeah, they use nostalgic concepts in this film, but don't live off that.
Oh, for sure, and they do try to pull on those heartstrings, and I get that. My Star Wars for me as a kid was Lord of the Rings, and when they came out with The Hobbit, I was like, yeah, I didn't really appreciate some of the things they did. It felt like kind of kiddie at some parts. It felt like it dragged on at other parts. It was like, what the heck are they doing? They're ruining. But they haven't, like, when I go watch Lord of the Rings, I'm not like, they ruined this for me. This isn't a Lord of the Rings film, because it's still in that world. It's just nice to be back there, because no matter what people say about this one, people are complaining about it a lot, but still giving it pretty decent scores. If this were any other franchise, first off, we wouldn't be talking about it this much, which is really cool that any franchise can get like the entire world to talk about it like this and be like so divided. But we still are like I'm not gonna say okay with it, because a lot of people aren't. But these people are still gonna go see 9. Like they're still gonna go see all of these films, because Star Wars means so much to all of us, and it speaks to us in different ways. And for some people, it did not speak to them, and it didn't pay off for a lot of the seeds that were planted, especially in Force Awakens. So I completely understand that. And if you hated this movie, I totally get it. I really, really do. But if you loved it, I also understand. So it's like, for me, I'd say I'm a little more in the middle, but I'm a little more just like, you hit me with that title crawl, and there's still stuff in Star Wars that I just love to see. I'm just like, like when I'm watching and I'm in it and they're playing the music and like you see the Millennium Falcon, I'm just like, this is still like, puts a big smile on my face. I'm like, all right, you did that. Like,
but I props to them for making it their own thing and really getting out of that Force Awakens rut, and, really trying to make something original.
Yeah. It's bold. It's definitely bold direction. All right. So now we're gonna flip into spoilers. So don't watch anymore. If you don't want to watch this, just there's time codes down below. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. All right, I'm gonna grab the spoiler switch now. Oh man, this one's got the most hype. I can feel it. God, there's so many spoilers. Oh God, people hate me. Oh, God. Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay. Last sparks. Oh gosh, man, I feel like Anakin on Mustafar. Gotcha, Vader. Anyway, so spoilers. Let's just get right into it. Luke dies. All right, Luke. He dies in this movie. Levi, how do you feel about it?
We don't know that. I'm very saddened by it, because I really wanted to see him come back in the third one, and we might see him come back as a ghost, like you said before.
Oh, for sure.
But I fucking loved Mark Hamill in this film, and I wanted to see him in the third installment. I think he would have made a great addition. I wanted to see more fight scenes from him. God, I'm gonna miss it. Yeah,
I was really hoping we were gonna get some confrontation between himself and the Knights of Ren at some point, and they kind of planted that seed back in Force Awakens. But there's a chance that that is a scene with Kylo and the Knights of Ren that takes place in the future. If you know what I'm talking about, with Rey's kind of vision when she first touches the lightsaber, she sees Kylo and his knights. I was kind of hoping we could see Luke fight them at some point, but we do get some cool scenes out of Luke. And we do get some funny scenes out of Luke. The funniest probably being the milking scene. How do you feel about that scene? I couldn't believe it. I was like,
I thought it was freaking hilarious. Totally fits the Star Wars MO. So
yeah, and he's just like, what? And I kind of like seeing his day-to-day life where he goes fishing and he's just kind of like just a civilian on this planet now. He's just like, I'm just here. I just live here now. Whatever. I don't really care about anything. But yeah, I thought his confrontation, though, with Kylo at the very end of it was very interesting and very impactful. And I remember sitting with you in the theater, and you're like, oh, my God, like the Force is so strong because all these walkers and everything fire at him, and he doesn't get hurt. And then you find out later on that it was just like an astral projection or a hologram of himself that he projected with the Force, and he was doing it back on the island that he was like living on. And I thought that was kind of cool. I thought that was pretty interesting. Did you like the whole Force hologram thing, Levi?
Yeah, it was a great twist. I mean, obviously, my second time watching the film, I was looking for it, and you could definitely tell. But yeah, it was a great twist. Props.
Yeah. We probably should have noticed something was up when he got like a haircut and his beard looked different and everything, and it's like, oh, he's looking pretty good. Yeah, I liked having that moment between him and Leia, though. I thought that was really impactful, and it was kind of cool to see those two kind of come together for a moment, just be like, like, okay, we lost Han, and that really sucks, and I'm gonna go and do this, so you guys get out of here. But also, it's kind of weird too. I thought for sure that Leia was not gonna make it out of this film. I really didn't think she was gonna survive. Did you?
Say that again.
Did you think Leia was gonna make it out of this film?
God, I mean, no. I thought this would have been the perfect way to end her storyline, but I get that they didn't want to like crap on her memory, so they're like, man, we really can't kill her off because that would be just too morbid, but now you're just digging yourself a bigger grave, pun intended, for the next film.
Well put.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, what did you think of the whole like her getting blown up in the the command bay or whatever, and then she kind of force pulled herself back into that? Did you like that sequence? I thought it felt a little uncanny valley, kind of weird looking.
Yeah, it was very different. Very cool to see Leia using the Force, though, because this is the first time we actually see her use the Force. So, yeah, I mean, cool.
Well, they should have Poe should have shown some sort of surprise or amazement, because he just lets her back in. She floats towards the door and just he just opens up. It's like, hey, you're back in or whatever. Wouldn't you I thought they should all be surprised.
I thought so too, and then I realized everybody looks up to her, and everybody knows what she's capable of. Everybody knows her legacy, her Skywalker blood. So
that's very true.
People probably aren't surprised. They're like, oh, she's using the Force.
One sentence would have been great of her just saying, I'm a Skywalker, what do you expect? Which would have been cool. People yeah. What did you think of her replacement, Holdo?
The first time we saw it, I did not like her. Second time through, she actually didn't bother me. I liked the actress. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She was actually a good actress. The hair was off for me.
Yeah, that was weird.
And her death scene is freaking phenomenal. Probably one of the coolest moments out of any Star Wars film. Okay. One of the coolest moments.
One of the biggest complaints here, and I completely understand it, though, is that now people could use hyper speed or light speed as a weapon. Now, I know it looked cool in that moment, but do you think that kind of makes it a little kind of crazy in any other space battle, that there aren't 2 or 3 ships that are just doing that anyway all the time?
I think that the circumstances were just right in order for her to aim the ship at them like that, with their shields not being up, for one. They weren't expecting it. They were caught off guard. I don't think that people in the future would be able to use it as a weapon a lot of times. I think you have to meet very good circumstances, and she saw the opportunity and she took it. So I don't agree with people saying that, but
Yeah, well, I think the thing is, it kind of really shakes up the space battles and says, like, why can't you make like an unmanned like frigate that's like as big as one of those things and just have like 3 of those, and instead of getting in any fight with anybody, you just point 3 of those at like any Star Destroyer and just be like doo doo doo, like just kind of just
fair.
right.
But then
through
that
it.
wouldn't make a good movie, you know?
Well, that's the thing is I told people this too, and like I was gonna say, it's not defending the logic of these films because these films have never really based in logic. I mean, look at the very beginning where they drop those bombs onto the dreadnought. It's like if it's space, then like those bombs probably wouldn't be unless they had like a little fire. Like, do they have any projectiles on the back of them, Levi, when you saw it the second time, or did they just fall out? So. Yeah,
but you know, and if you notice something too, that door opens and the bomb's released, so she would die just from the space being exposed to the space. You know,
like getting sucked out or whatever, and the bomb should go like everywhere. But so again, I think the biggest problem I think a lot of people might have, physics wise, I think you have to realize that logic, with characters and with just like the physics in Star Wars, and I'm not saying that you get a pass from everybody, but that's going to be there always. There's always going to be something, because they'll say, what makes a cool shot, instead of spending like 5 minutes setting up something that's like, okay, like we have gravity inducers here, so we can use this to make this look cool and all of that. So I understand people's qualms with those types of things. But the lightspeed thing could be very devastating, and they'll probably have to make something in 9 to offset that, don't you think, Levi? Like some sort of weapon or some sort of device that makes it so people can't do that?
No, I think Disney's just going to be smart enough and not write something else like that into the plot. They won't use that tactic again. I don't, you know, and I think they'll just let it go. And I mean, it sucks to see people are just ripping apart the smallest things about this film just because it's big. Like, yeah, everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon and just shit on anything they can on it, you know?
Well, I'm going to try to do a mix of like what we like and what we don't like. And that's kind of something we don't like. But I will say this, even though Holdo probably should have told Poe her plan all along was basically to slowly move towards a rebel base, and that way they could cloak a bunch of transport ships and go down to the surface and kind of survive out there.
In the bus, sure.
She should have told Poe probably that was her plan, because Poe basically sets up a mutiny and like tries to take over the ship, because he's like, we're all gonna die here if you do this. We gotta do something drastic. And he kind of sends Finn and Rose off on this other like ancillary mission to kind of defeat the tracking device. I will say this though, I like Poe Dameron. I like his character still. I love the beginning when he gets introduced. I'm not a huge fan of the joke. It goes on a little too long. What we're talking about, the whole like your mom joke with Hux, but I really love the whole, like, he's so brash and brazen. He gets a lot of people killed, and I feel like he has to learn that lesson. But, like, at the very beginning, he's, like, one X-Wing going against, like, this gigantic dreadnought, and they're like, no one would be crazy enough to come and do this. They're like, oh, this is so stupid. He's not going to do anything. And then he's like, you fool, he's doing something. He's killing all of our turrets, and, like, he's just going around blowing stuff up, and I'm like, all right. Like, Poe's got his one thing. He's a flyboy. And I absolutely love that character and how he learned a little bit in this movie. How do you feel about Poe?
He's got some great character development in this film. You can see definitely from the beginning towards the end. He learns from his hot-headed mistakes, and Leia actually starts to trust him as the next leader. You can see where this is going. You know, you can see that this is probably where it's going to end up, as he's going to be passed on the leader of the rebels and the resistance. And I'd be okay with that. He's a great character, you know, very cool, actions that he does, and he's learning. So,
yeah, I'm right there with you. I thought that Holdo was going to kind of be the replacement for Leia in this one, because I thought they were just going to put her in coma indefinitely and just keep her there. And so that's why I was, that would have been interesting. I just thought it was weird, and then Holdo like died in this one. I was like, whoa, okay, like they introduced this kind of a major-ish character, and then she's gone.
Well, and how do you feel about her coming back from her, recovery process, and then she just shoots him, but then she's fine for the rest of the film? Then she's she's pretty fine. No bandages, nothing else.
The problem, first off, I like that they brought the stun back on with their guns, because the blasters don't just do that; they can also stun people, which I love. And I think it's kind of cool. But you're right, it is kind of weird. I thought the biggest issue that they were going to face with that is that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 came out this year, and spoilers for that. I think, it came out this year. And somebody dies in space in a very similar way, and I thought Leia was going to go out like that, and she was going to do one last Force thing, and then. But you're right, she does she manages to come back from it pretty quickly. It seems quick, but I don't know how many hours. I'm sure you could calculate it. But she's a kind of not a Jedi, but almost a Jedi. So it's fine, I guess, that she comes back like that. I would rather have her stun Poe because it's a lot better where he's like, oh my gosh, you're okay. And she's like, bam, you know, which is like, that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm okay with it. It's fine. I just don't know what they're going to do with her next now. It's just, I have a theory. I should say not a theory, but I've got a version that I would love to pitch for what I would have loved in 8, and I'm sure a lot of people have this too. But my hope was that Kylo was going to, you know, kind of get in that same position where he was going to shoot and attack her, and then those other two guys kind of come out and they attack her. And then after that, after she died, like she's actually dead, they kind of go back to base and they kind of all land or whatever. And they're like, hey, Kylo, good work out there. And Kylo kills those two pilots and he just like cuts them down or whatever. And he's just like so angry. He's like, that should have been my kill. It was my decision. And keep Luke, his death, to the 9th film.
And, you know, we don't know what was rewritten because of Carrie Fisher's actual death in real life. We don't know if that, you know, that very well could have been the case, is that those pilots did kill her in that moment. And
well, they shot the other stuff though. That's the thing, is I think she survived throughout the filming process. Otherwise they wouldn't have filmed that other stuff where she lived through that. Maybe there was a draft where she lived through that moment and then died at the end of the film. I'm not sure.
We don't know.
Speaking of other people who almost died, I thought for a really brief second there Finn was going to die. At the very end, he's charging this cannon. I thought he was a dead man, Levi. And to be honest,
so did Doug. Yeah, so did Doug when we were watching it. We were like, does he die? Like, no, just watch. Like, they could have done it.
I was excited. I was excited that he was going to die because honestly, this is his 2nd film, and I still think he's the weakest character out of all of them. Mm-hmm. He should be interesting. He's like a stormtrooper turned good guy, which is kind of weird.
There's theories he's going to be a Jedi in the next film, and he's going to get a lightsaber. And yep,
don't say these things. Why? I know. Why does he have any Force abilities?
Because he does. Yeah, he awoke with the Force, and Kylo sensed him when he was attacking the beginning Rebel or Resistance base in the first film. He sensed that Finn was awoken.
Really?
Yeah. If you go ahead and watch that film again.
I did. I just watched it. There's commentary. I do have it.
Yeah, see him look at Finn, and you can see that he can tell something's different about that stormtrooper.
Well, that's because he woke up. I think it's more of like that movie is a lot about awakening, like in different ways, because he woke up from being a stormtrooper when he went to that planet, and he got like the blood on his face. He's like, "Oh, I'm awake now." I hope he does. Not that I think like I'm all for everyone being a Jedi, but it's just like that character specifically.
I know, and I think that, but I think that's what they're leaning towards. That's just my theory, you know.
Do you like Finn though, Levi? Be honest, man. If you like Finn, that's fine. If everybody loves Finn, maybe I'm
okay. I love the actor. I think he would be great in other films, and I can't wait to see what else he does because I think he's hilarious. But I think he pulls me out of the experience when he's on screen with his booyah and like all of his, you know. And I like John Boyega. I really do. I really like him. I think he's really fun, but I don't think he works for this film franchise. He's the one character that doesn't mesh with other characters.
I think you're right. I think he kind of says a lot of things. The way they've written him out, especially in Force Awakens, is very much like he's like, did you see that? Did you see? Or like he's like, what up, Phasma? What up? Or whatever. It's like, okay, like come on. Yeah, Crumbdom. Question though, Levi, have you seen John Boyega in anything else besides Star Wars?
I haven't. Is he in other movies?
Well, I was going to say, because you say you like him as an actor, but you've only seen him in Star Wars.
Yeah, because I thought that he was an up and coming.
Yeah, he's been in. There's Detroit, I think, was another one that came out last like August or something. I'm sure he's been in other things. I'm sorry, Mr. I know, John, you're watching. I'm sorry, we're not familiar with your other works.
I know he's in the next Pacific Rim movie. Maybe we'll get a lot more action out of him there. So
maybe, yeah. I don't know. I just don't really. I think the character of Finn could be a lot more, and he's not. And I think in a lot of ways, he's almost unnecessary. Which sucks because
it's unnecessary. No,
he gets a third of the film, and that's one of my biggest qualms with The Last Jedi is that there's a lot of times that I feel like, when you're watching Lord of the Rings, Levi, and you got your Gandalf story, your Frodo story, and your Aragorn story, and they're all kind of going in their own things. I don't really feel too often in those films, except for maybe like in Two Towers when they cut back to Merry and Pippin talking at the end. So I'm like, come back to Helm's Deep. But there's not too many times where I'm like, man, this is like the B story. Like all of it seems to be like really, really good. But when I was watching Finn with Rose at the casino specifically, not only did it not feel like Star Wars, but I kept thinking, please go back to like the Luke stuff. Like go back to Luke. Like, did you feel like that?
There is something about that casino scene at the end that I really like. I do like the getaway. If they would have just kept that part, I would have been okay with it. They didn't need the whole introduction of the casino, landing on the beach. Like they could have skipped a lot of that. I liked the getaway. I liked the bulls, and them seeing the new Force kid and kid with the Force, and I liked that getaway part. I did.
Oh, well, but like, did you feel like you ever were watching something that was like boring compared to the other things that were going on?
No. The beginning of the casino scene, yes, it wasn't necessarily and didn't match with the rest of the film. But no, not too bad.
See, I thought the casino scene was just like a waste. I think DJ was kind of an interesting character. This is Benicio del Toro in this movie. I forgot who's in this movie.
Well, I do like him a lot, actually.
He's good. I don't know how I feel about the stutter. It seems kind of like an interesting choice. It's kind of like Samuel Jackson has like a really crazy lisp in the first Kingsman movie, and I feel like with Samuel Jackson, he might have just chosen to do that. And no one told him not to. But Benicio del Toro, they were probably like, you need to have this. But I love the moment. There's one good moment where he kind of talks about like, oh yeah, it looks like this weapons dealer, because all these casino people are profiteering off of the war, and they're all like super rich people. But it's like, oh, they're all just selling to the First Order. But it's like, oh, actually, they sold some X-Wings to the Resistance, it looks like. So I kind of like that, like kind of, oh, it's like a little minor kind of political modern-day statement. And I was like, that's kind of like interesting and cool, because like sometimes remember that the good guys aren't always the best guys. Like, keep that in mind. Rogue One is a great example.
I liked that guy. I liked that actor. I thought he was fun, actually. I thought he made a really cool little addition. I liked the stutter. I'm going to be honest. I did like it. I thought it built head character, and it wasn't forced. You could tell that he was pretty smooth about it, and it fit his character. And I liked it. And I was bummed at the end that he turned out to be a bad guy. I wanted to see him again.
I feel like, moving on to a new character, that Rose was paired with just the absolute worst person she could have been paired with. I think if she would have been paired with like Poe or somebody else, not that she needs to fall in love with whomever she's paired with, but I thought Rose was just unfortunately so minor, and then she was paired with the most minor person just to give them something. It's kind of reminiscent a little bit to like the Hulk and Black Widow to me, like in Age of Ultron. Like they're like, we have nothing for this character to do, so these two should love each other. So it's like that's kind of what it felt like here again. Did that feel like that?
You can go through both of these movies and literally take Finn out, and nothing would feel out of place. Poe could literally fill all the spots that Finn had, and it would be just fine. He could have gone on that little side mission with her, and it would have been just the same. Even better, because Poe actually fits the smuggler part, I mean, you could totally write out John Boyega out of the whole series, and nothing would feel like, man, this is missing an awoken stormtrooper that we didn't need.
Yeah, definitely. That's totally true. I was kind of hoping that Finn, was going to have some sort of tracking device in him that kept like leading somehow the First Order to them, or there was going to be an Imperial spy on board. That way you could have kept Finn, Rose, and Poe together without them having to leave and be like, all right, we got to lock this down and find out who is like giving or transmitting coordinates to the First Order. We got to figure that out, because like sending them off on that little mission felt so stupid. Like it was such a waste of time. It was like,
they didn't get anywhere with it either. It didn't help anything. They didn't shut down the tracker.
And I know
people would lead up to a fight between Phasma. That's all it would lead to.
Yeah. And I know people didn't like that there's a lot of failure in this movie, but I kind of like that, because in a lot of these Star Wars movies, like there is failure sometimes, but it's not as pronounced. Usually the heroes are completely the best. Like Empire is a good rendition of kind of failure to some degree. I mean, there's some sort of kind of spiritual successes, like with Luke, but I kind of liked seeing that, like when in the very beginning, even Poe like gets a ton of people killed. He gets a lot of people killed, and they're like, "You killed a ton of us," and he's like, "But we had to take this thing down." And they're like, "But you killed so many."
A lot of dead here.
I love that. I'm like, oh, cool. It felt like there were actual stakes, and like people were actually feeling emotion for their actions, as opposed to being like, I was successful and it doesn't even matter how many people died. I appreciated that. Did you like that feel?
I did, yeah. I like the humility of it. that the good guys aren't always going to win, and it's not always going to go according to plan. I like that feeling. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, were you gonna ask a question there? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I was going to see, how do you feel about Rose? I wasn't sure at first, but I felt good about her after watching Rogue One. Not to be, not to say anything there, but a lot of those, characters were prominent in Rogue One, and
What do you mean? Like, oh, just like the regular, just kind of rebel or first order
yeah,
resistance or rebels, and just kind of like just a no name who's just
yeah,
in. I like that too. I like kind of focusing on that because it just kind of says Star Wars isn't about a handful of people called Skywalkers and Kenobis and Darth. It's like there's a lot of other people who live in this world, and I appreciated that. They kind of feel like they ham-fisted her into being who she was because they're like, oh yeah, her sister died right in the beginning, like, and that's why she wants to be part of this even more so because her sister died. So I thought her introduction was kind of rushed, and they don't really get a lot of time to develop her character outside of Finn, which kind of sucks. So I think she has potential, but the fact that she is basically just a romantic interest or conquest for Finn without him even realizing it, or I should say maybe Finn is a romantic conquest for her, it just seems really weird. I think the last thing we see of her is not super great, where she's kind of like kisses him out there and she's like, we're not going to win this war by sacrificing ourselves, by saving and protecting each other. And it's like, yeah, but no, it's like, it's just a stupid little bit. I like her performance as Rose. I think Rose is kind of an interesting character. I think she's a little naive, in the beginning, where it's like Finn is trying to escape on a pod to get out and to do some other stuff, but she's like, oh, why are you like getting in an escape pod?
yeah.
She's like, but it's like, oh, Finn, you're a big resistance hero, and it's like, ugh. But yeah, do you like Rose?
I do like Rose. Yeah, I do like her a lot, actually. Yeah, I think they did a good job with her character, and
What do you like about her specifically?
Well, I like her personality.
Okay.
I like that she's not your average, Star Wars character. Like, she's got something different she brings to the table. She's got kind of like this cute spunk that we haven't seen. Rey's not very cutesy, she's not at all. She's not very happy, and we see Rose like joy. We see some happiness from this character and some fun.
That's true. That's true. And I also like that she is against animal cruelty and slavery.
Yeah.
Like she gets there and she's like, you know what?
Yeah.
Even though like this movie, like it has so many things, so many plot lines, it's like it seemed like they kind of forced that one in there too. But I was happy. Like I wasn't a huge fan of the breakout at the end where they save all these creatures. There's a racetrack at this casino, and they basically free all the creatures that were used and kind of enslaved on the racetrack. Which I was like, okay, cool. Somebody even akin to Trico from The Last Guardian. I was like, that's a pretty good. We'll talk about those later on.
You weren't a fan of that scene?
Huh?
You said you weren't a fan of that scene?
I wasn't a fan of the breakout just because it was just a bunch of CGI stuff. Like that's the problem with me. Like there's so much, and I get that in these movies they have to do that, but some of it's just like you just didn't need to do like 60 or 70 of these things running away. But they were super cute. Don't get me wrong, when they're popping their heads out of the cells at that one part and kind of looking at them, I was like, oh, yeah, they're so cute. I was like, save them all. And then they did. And I was like, oh, okay, thank goodness, because I was gonna have night terrors of these fictional creatures in this fictional world, because that's just who I am. Anyway,
about new little Anakin?
Are you talking about Kylo?
No, how do you feel about new little boy Anakin?
Oh, little boy Anakin. Okay, so full disclosure, folks, Levi and I were in a theater of people who were so jazzed, and they were like going insane when this, like at the very end, the last shot you see in Last Jedi is one of the little boys who works as a slave there at the casino on the racetrack, walks outside, and he kind of force grabs a broom over to himself and is kind of looking up at the stars, and he's kind of brooming. It's like, oh, like, there are still Force users out there. We'll see if that pans out at all. After Force Awakens set up so many things and didn't really pay off with them. Anything they set up in this film, I'm kind of thinking, well, there's a good chance that's not going to pay off at all. So why spend time thinking and theorizing about it? Because probably not going to happen. I don't know. Were you excited about that?
I didn't really care.
Yeah, I didn't.
I didn't really care. I mean, it's cool. I thought it was cool how he grabbed the broom, but there's always going to be Force users out there. I'm sure it's never going to fully die. Even if the Jedi die, there will be new ones born.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about some major character deaths. We talked about Luke. We're going to talk about two more serious ones here. Now, the first one shook me to my core. This is a character I've been excited to see on the big screen for a long time. I have so much love for this character. Believe it or not, you're gonna be Jimmy. How can you possibly have love with this character? His death was so quick, I wasn't ready for it. People are barely talking about it. That's right, I'm talking about Admiral Akbar. Now, Admiral Akbar is super great, and he's dead. He's just gone. Now, I understand that the voice actor, I believe, did pass away in real life, which sucks. But he's just gone. Admiral Akbar, a staple to Star Wars, just gone.
Where did they get the voice clip then for that the one part that he talks in?
I don't know. Maybe they recorded that beforehand, or maybe they just Sometimes I wonder if they just got a voice actor and did it close enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because like in Battlefront 2, he is a character. Like he's in Battlefront also. He's a character that the new ones.
You can play as him?
I believe so. Am I thinking of the wrong guy?
You might be. Admiral Akbar, the Mon Calamari, the red guy. That's a trap.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the other dude. The dude with the chubby, kind of 2-layered face, big eyes.
Palpatine. Gotcha.
No, you know who I'm talking about.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
He's got like the 2-layered face. Got like
Jabba the Hutt.
Oh Jesus, no.
Boss Nass.
Oh no.
Kiadi Mundi. Now that's on the top. Oppo Rancis.
I'll figure it out.
Sifo Diaz.
We've never seen on screen before.
That's true.
Oh, Nien Nunb.
Oh, Nien Nunb?
Yes. That's what I was thinking. I'm sorry.
Not that guy.
Because you can play it Battlefront, so.
I saw an article about there was like, oh, Nien Nunb fans depressed once again. I'll say Chewbacca also gets kind of relegated in this movie into just a very, very minor role. But, okay, so Admiral Akbar, it bothers me more than most people. But the biggest one being the death of everybody's favorite, Snoke. So Supreme Leader Snoke is dead. Levi, how do you feel about this? This is huge.
That was pretty insane. I feel like a lot of people are not trying to talk about it right now just to avoid spoilers, but in the next couple of months we'll hear a lot about it.
Oh, sure.
A shame, really. We don't know a lot about this character, and now we never really will, you know?
Maybe.
Maybe
not, though. I have a theory.
I was going to say, yeah, go ahead, because I'm thinking the same thing. I don't think he's really dead.
I'm just saying, well, that's the thing. It's like, the problem with these films is we're seeing 2/3 of a pie right now. We don't know what that last third is. We could see a Force Ghost version of him. He maybe wanted to die. And like Luke said to Kylo, he's like, if you strike me down in anger, I'll be with you always. We haven't seen a Sith really come back as a ghost yet, like in a big way. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a red-tinted Snoke be an antagonist or just constantly kind of like attached to Rey or attached to Kylo, just be like kind of hounding them. I don't know. What do you think?
I've seen a theory or rumor that, this could be, if this is Darth Plagueis, he will actually regenerate himself and he will revive himself. And I think that could totally happen. I mean, the ship was completely destroyed that his body was on, but he's very strong with the Force,
Incredibly strong.
What if it wasn't even him? What if it was just like a dummy or something? We don't know. We don't know.
That's true.
He's too big. I honestly think that he's too big of a villain for them just to snuff out just like that.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen much from him. And I wanted to see a lightsaber battle between him and, Mark Hamill at one point. But
or Luke.
Luke, yeah. I don't think we're ever going to see that. So
maybe not. Maybe a ghost lightsaber battle. That would be stupid. Yeah. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
But I don't even know if Snoke has a lightsaber. He's more of like a Force user, right? So
I thought for sure he was going to block the lightsaber with his hand, because we've seen Force users do that in other things, specifically like the Star Wars MMO, the Knights of or just the Old Republic. Sure. But I thought he was going to put his hand down there, because Kylo basically turns Luke's lightsaber towards Snoke as Snoke's holding Rey up, and Rey's kind of like, he's like, all right, Kylo, kill Rey. And so he turns on Kylo turns on his own lightsaber, but turns Luke's lightsaber into Snoke while he's not paying attention, because he's like, I can see into Kylo's mind. He's turning on his lightsaber. He's going to strike down his foe that he hates the most, and then stabs through the stomach, kind of like, I'm guessing he moves backwards and then goes forward, because it like completely like cuts him in half. But I think the great thing about that is it leads into, I would say, the best fight scene, maybe one of the best action scenes in the entire film, is between both Kylo with Rey back to back against those Praetorian, those red guards you see in all the trailers. Did you enjoy that fight scene?
Loved it. I mean, that's what the movie built up to. That was fantastic. Unfortunately, I mean, we were hoping for a little bit more lightsaber battles, but that was fantastic. I loved it. Loved the choreography. I loved the the charisma between Kylo and Rey fighting. It was fantastic. I thought.
Yeah, they've got a good chemistry, and
Yeah,
they do have this kind of like they're kind of going back to back and doing a few things, and it's kind of a brutal fight. One of my favorite scenes, I think, is when at the end she kind of like Kylo's kind of strung up by this guy, and the guy's right behind him, and she's like, "You said Ben," and she throws him her lightsaber, and he takes it, turns it on, turns it off, so it goes like right through the guy's head, and they just kind of like
I
move it,
loved
and that's
it.
just like his eye, and it's like, oh,
And everybody in the
gosh.
theater was like, "Oh!" Like,
It's like whoops. It's
yeah.
like, ooh.
Did you, when you saw the lightsaber turn, I didn't think that it was going to turn to kill him the first time. I really
Sure.
didn't. I really thought that it was just going to turn and he was going to grab it. But what did you think? Did you think that Snoke was going to die?
I didn't think he was. I thought he was going to be able to prevent it or something like that. I
Yeah.
thought for sure he wasn't going to die because I thought, oh, they got to have him for 9, and this is like Palpatine. But they kind of got to the Return of the Jedi moment a lot faster in this one, where it's like, oh, this is your main character in front of the main bad guy with the tormented kind of underling here. So, yeah, I didn't think he was going to die. We'll see what happens there. And again, this is one of the reasons why a lot of people hate it, is like Snoke's dead. And right now, they didn't make any hint towards him being alive in the future. And so a lot of people who were excited for that past few years, so it's been, like 2 years of theorizing and hoping that Snoke is going to be cool. And he has a few cool moments. I mean, he picks Rey up, just kind of throws her around, shoots like lightning down at the ground and hits somebody. It's like, wow, that's like, he's kind of powerful. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it's the last we've seen of him. Also, it's Andy Serkis, who does a great job. I don't like the gold robe. He's a little too Hugh Hefner for me, personally. But I think that...
Andy Serkis is Snoke?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah, that's because he's one of the greatest actors that's living today.
Sure.
But I think that if you hire someone like Andy Serkis, you're going to get him for all 3 films. You're going to do your CGI, you're going to do your Gollum, you're going to do your Caesar, you're going to do your Snoke. All right? You're going to have him. He's going to be back, people. Don't you worry. I'm pretty sure. The thing is, if he isn't, I was talking with some buddies about this the other night. If he isn't back, then yeah, I will be completely right there with you. Like, how dare this movie like not, do anything more with him?
His character, yeah, because people are interested. Like, what's his backstory?
Yeah, exactly. We want to know, and I don't know if they're going to be like Snoke, a Star Wars story. Like, I don't think they would do that. But
what I would. Let's talk about for a second what we want to see from 9, or was that a segment that you already had planned?
Oh yeah, that's gonna be the ending bit. I just want to talk. Is there anything else to see? We talked about pretty much every character. Okay, we talked about Rey a little bit.
How do you feel about Chewie getting shoehorned in this movie?
Like I said at the beginning, like earlier, he's just kind of there.
I mean, like he didn't have a lot to do in this movie, and that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
the Fords had more to do than Chewie did.
They're just kind of some comic relief. He did a few things. Yeah, it's fine. The problem when you don't have Han and the fact that he and Rey haven't really established a really good connection, they can't really play off each other, so there's no one to play off Chewie right now. It kind of sucks. I liked him getting reunited with Luke. I wish there was more of like a hug in there or whatever, but I love that Chewie just slams down the door and Luke's like, Chewie, what are you doing here? And then he's like, where's Han? Like, and I thought at first I was like, why doesn't he know it? It's like, oh, he cut himself off from the Force, so he wouldn't have known. Then he's like, yeah. Have we covered pretty much everything? I'm sure there's things we're missing here. Again, music's great, sound is great, effects all look really good. There's some CGI that does look like garbage. All right, 2 specific things: those crystal critters or whatever they're called, those foxes. While they look okay to most, they made an animatronic, and I talked about this in the review. They made this cool animatronic, Levi, and then they're like, and then we scanned in the model, and I'm like, no.
We talked about this, yeah.
It just looks so fake to me, and there's some rocks that Rey moves at the end that look like garbage.
When I watched that again this past weekend, because we saw it together on Thursday, and then I saw it on Sunday night, the rocks actually weren't that bad.
I gotta go see it again. I thought they looked like garbage.
I'm sure you and I will go see it this weekend again, but it wasn't that bad.
I do want to go see it again. Yeah, and I think the other thing too is like, I really wanted Rey to go to the dark side. She actually went into it. She had that moment where, another big payoff that doesn't really come to fruition is that Rey's parents are, at least right now to us, just 2 drunks that traded her for some money and left her on a planet of Jakku. I'm fine with that. I think that's okay because that's how Anakin was. I think they just shouldn't have built it up as like, who are her parents? And like, that's her whole quest for this movie. It's like, who are my parents? Who are my parents? And she goes into like this literal dark hole, and she goes and like does that whole mirror sequence, which is kind of strange. I don't really care about that. I just wanted her to go to the dark side, and I wanted Kylo to come back to the light. because I thought that would have been really cool. Did
That
you
would have been a
want
cool
that?
twist. It wouldn't have. I don't think that would have panned out for Disney, but
That's what I thought too. I'm like, it's just they can't do it. They can't do it.
I'd love to see a female Sith for sure.
Oh, totally.
And maybe
so
there's
cool.
a female in the Knights of Ren. We'll see.
Well, the thing with her too is because she's kind of been so bland and reserved the whole time, becoming a dark side user or even a Sith eventually would be interesting because she could start playing on her passions. Like she has anger towards all of this stuff, and it would be so cool to see that, you know, come to the forefront as opposed to her just kind of, you know, she never has a problem. Like she has internal struggle, but like everything else she's totally fine with, and she just seems like almost untouchable, like in any way. Like even the dark side can't touch her because like Luke's like, well, you ran straight to the dark side, you didn't even hesitate, and she's just like, yep, I did. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's like Luke should have said, well, you know, I've used the dark side occasionally too, but don't do it, you know. But I do love the lessons you get from him. I love that he even talks about Sidious a little bit, talks about like kind of the Jedi's folly. And then eventually we get the reveal of Yoda kind of saying that failure is okay. You know, this isn't the same Yoda that's like, do or do not, there is no try. He's like, you didn't teach people that it's okay to fail. I love that message. I think that's really cool. I think the Jedi, like they're held up a little too high, and you know the prequel trilogy is all about how stupid they really are, or the hubris, I should say, the pride of the Jedi. But I love that Yoda kind of comes in and says like, hey, you know what? Whatever, just like burn it all down, move on. Even though we know that the books that were supposedly burned by Yoda's lightning bolt, which was crazy, were saved. But I know that you enjoyed the part when he blew up the tree with lightning, and then he just goes.
I loved it. Yeah, and that Yoda, like we thought about it, so that is the Yoda from Episode 6.
Yeah, 5 and 6, and it is the puppet.
Yep, it is the puppet with a little bit of CGI thrown in there for ghost effect. And I think people are a lot more happier about that because everybody hated Yoda from Episode 1. Or not Episode 1, Episode 2 and 3, I think.
1 I thought was the worst. He looks real nuts in that. I like 2 and 3 CG Yoda. I think he's fine.
He's fine, yeah. Yeah, the puppet from 1 was horrible, but I think they found a good balance in this. I love that Yoda was there. And if Ghosts can do those kind of actions, what else can they do? What else are we going to... What if we see this as a big war of, you know, Ghost Jedi?
Well, that's the scary thing too, is because they've never been able to interact with the physical world before. That's another introduction of something that maybe will come into play down the line. The only problem is right now, Rian Johnson's even said, you know, I can only speculate what they're going to do with 9. I'm just a fan again. So it kind of seems a little short-sighted between that and the light speed stuff, the hyperspace battling stuff, that like these things have big ramifications in the mythos that is Star Wars.
They had to have let him in on some stuff of like where he was heading towards.
I hope so. Or at least the committee should have said like, hey, you can't really introduce this because it breaks a lot of things. Because it seems like tons of fans are angry about it. And I'd like to think that there were some diehard fans who were helping make these films and said like, hey, like you can't really introduce that because if you do, it's going to like really throw everything out of whack, you know? So we'll see.
Maybe the canon and
yeah, it's gonna get weird. But yeah, I thought the Yoda coming back, I was surprised that he was showing up. But I wasn't completely unwelcomed. It's like, okay, hey Yoda, how's it going, buddy? He was definitely back to his old kooky hermity self and just kind of doddering around. And I love seeing him with Luke again, and Luke being a master eventually again, but also still being a student. Kind of like he's just kind of young Skywalker, blah blah blah. Like I like that. Let's see. Anything else?
I wonder why we haven't seen Darth Vader come back and talk to Kylo. You know.
I think it's too much. The problem is right now, like because the remastered ones show Anakin as the Force Ghost as like Hayden Christensen, as opposed to like the old guy that played it back in the original version. I don't know if it'd be hard to have Hayden Christensen come back in any way without people being like, how dare he come back and ruin all of this too? Even though that would be really interesting to have freaking Hayden Christensen have talked to Mark Hamill as like, you know, Anakin and Luke and say like, you know what, like I had really good intentions. I tried to save your mom, but I eventually like it didn't work out that way. He's not gonna be like, I force choked your mom to death. You know, more or less. Or just knocked her out. I mean, he didn't. But anyway, give the will to live. Last thing I want to talk about, Kylo Ren. I do like in this one, and I really like, once again, you know, talk about the Force. I love to joke about the Force being this like really cheap special effect where it's just like, I do this, but they have the cool noise in the background. In this one, the Force communication between Kylo and Rey I thought was interesting because it cuts between them just looking off screen in the respective setting, but it just jumps back and forth like it's a conversation. A cheap effect, but to a really cool degree, I thought. I really enjoyed those conversations. What did you think?
Too. Yeah, it made for a good good story development for sure.
Yeah, it's just like not too many stories. You get to have the villain and the hero constantly talk to each other. It's kind of like a little bit like how when Frodo put on the ring, he gets to eat Sauron, but it's not like Sauron's like, so it's like, Frodo, how's it going? You know, Frodo's like, it's rough out here. Yeah, that would have been weird. But yeah, I love those things. I kind of wish Kylo still wore his helmet a little bit. I like the helmet. I know Snoke makes a joke where he's like, take off that ridiculous thing. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. Is there any closing thoughts you have? Good, bad, Levi? Is there anything else you want to bring up in this moment?
Just another theory. Do you think Luke is dead? Do you actually think that Luke is actually dead?
I think he'll ghost back. I think also logistically, I love.
What if he's not even a ghost? What if he just actually transported himself?
Where would he teleport himself, though?
Hey, I mean, he's freaking Luke Skywalker. He can transport himself anywhere.
I mean, that's true, too. I mean, he could have teleported off. So basically, if you're unfamiliar, if you haven't seen it yet and you're still listening to the spoilers, he does that that hologram we talked about at the beginning, but he never leaves Octu, the planet he was on. And he ends up like bleeding on these rocks, but he sees the two suns from Tatooine, which kind of signifies to me that he's gone. And Rey and Leia both say they feel that he's gone. Yeah, unless he cut himself off from the Force immediately after teleporting out. But he fades into that ghost thing like Obi-Wan has done and Yoda has done.
Wishful thinking. I'm just wishful here, you know.
But I think we're going to get a ghost version of him because if Yoda can do that kind of like, I think, logistically, if we looked at both Andy Serkis and Mark Hamill and see if they got paid to do 3 episodes, but okay, obviously you're going to be back for something. So I'm kind of hopeful, and I don't think this will happen, but I'd love a Luke standalone because this Luke is so cool. Like, he's so great. And yeah, he wouldn't be doing much on that island, but still, I would love to see him training Kylo and all of those other Jedi that ended up dying or becoming Knights of Ren. Like, I want to see that. That's cool. So, yeah. My favorite Luke. This is my favorite Luke. I'm just going to say it right now. Drinking that creepy green milk from that creepy monster thing. Like, oh boy, that is an image that will stay with me for a long time. Like I said, I did a review of it, so you can check it out there. I won't give you the score here, but Levi, give us a score. 0 out of 10.
After rewatching it again,
God,
I would still give it like a 9.7 or a 9.8 out of 10.
Oh my gosh, that's so high.
I truly loved this film.
Levi, that's so high.
I've reflected on it a lot. I've seen the criticisms. I've weighed my own. I love the acting in this film. I really felt like some raw emotional acting from this film, and I think that's, coupled with the action and the characters and the settings and everything, I loved it. I have to say that this is my favorite Star Wars film thus far, and that's not just hype. It's not just building off of hype because I've seen it twice now.
Yeah. Would you say that? So like these, not necessarily the plot holes, but a lot of these payoffs that didn't really come to fruition here. Is any of that offsetting to you? Because I know it was offsetting to me a bit. Where I was like, oh man, that's kind of like, it built up the Rey Parent thing, but it doesn't matter. And it's like, I guess it doesn't really matter. And the Snoke thing, it's like, and Luke's gone now. It's like, okay.
No, I feel like it's just a good build-up. It's just a very well done build-up movie that's gearing us towards that third film. And I feel like that if it stays on this track with like the freaking raw emotion that came from Adam Driver and Rey and these characters, I feel like 3 is just going to knock it out of the park. Absolutely.
I hope so. And one thing I want to tell people, if they're like, wow, like Levi, you're just like a original trilogy, like, super, well, if you're an original trilogy super fan,
no.
I was gonna say that you wouldn't like this one because I think a lot of the people from the original trilogy don't really like where this one went anyway. But you're not a huge fan of those ones. But it's not like you
anything. No, I love Star Wars. Just I love Star Wars. I watched the prequels. I grew up on the prequels. And I watching those back again now. They're not my favorite.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were watching episode 1 the other night. And you're like,
I was watching episode 1 last night. It's very rough. It's a very rough go.
Yeah.
But no, and I'm trying not to sound like a fanboy. I really like this film. I really like the raw emotion. I seriously feel something when Adam Driver's like, shoot that thing out of the sky, shoot that bucket of bolts or whatever he calls it, that bucket of dust or whatever he says out of the sky. I loved it.
I'll say one last thing before I kind of do my closing remarks. I forgot to mention Hux, General Hux. They kind of make a fool out of him in this film, but I still love the back and forth between him and Kylo, and the fact that he almost draws a gun on him at one point. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I think we're gonna see that relationship come to a head, especially in 9, where it's like Kylo's gonna try to he's gonna do something, and then Hux is gonna be right there trying to shoot him in the back. And I love that we have one of these characters like a Grand Moff Tarkin that's such a big deal that he'll just walk into a conversation with him and Snoke's like, do you think I keep him around because I want to? He's like, I know what motivates this guy. And I love that. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, Hux wants power. Like, he's this young guy who just wants to be in full and complete power. It's like, it's interesting to see what he'll do and kind of what role he'll play at any given time. But it becomes kind of a heel in this movie, which it's fine. Again, if you're a Star Wars fan, you've already seen it. If you're like a diehard fan and you hated this movie, I understand. If you are a diehard fan and you love it or like it even, just you like it enough, I understand that too. I would say that for me personally, there's a lot in a Star Wars film that makes it great. I love like the music, the special effects, the sound design, the characters, the lightsabers, different locales, and the fact that they shot a lot of these spaces, or some of them, at least in like real places, which I really love, because in the prequels there's a lot of green screen, and there's still green screen here too, but it's not as bad. But they do rehash some original trilogy stuff, but they also take it off in another bold direction. I think that's the problem. Force Awakens was safe in that they kind of just did the same thing that we've seen before. And a lot of people love that. But this one kind of did a little bit of that, but a lot of like, nope, we're doing this completely differently than you'd expect. And that scares some people. And it's bold changes. I get why a lot of people are off-put by it. I completely understand that. So my score for a movie is what I try to do with every movie. I try to look at a movie and say, what does the movie do in and of itself? What does it do really well? What doesn't it do so well? So if you look at a score sometime and you're like, he gave this a 7, but he gave this a 9, apples and oranges. That's another thing too. It's like it can't compare, like even Justice League to this one. But I think that I enjoyed it. I would like to go back and see it again. There were things I didn't like, but overall, just seeing I really like Luke. I really like Poe. Finn is just maybe the least favorite thing about it for me. I really don't like him. Phasma, we can barely talk about her for a second. She's there. She's gone. She might be dead. I don't care anymore. So it's like, I just don't care. Rose is fine. Holdo I didn't like. Leia was all right. There's just, but I like being in Star Wars. There's the gravitas. There's the action set pieces, all that stuff, and I like that this movie talks about failure. I like that a Star Wars film says it's okay to fail, because not often do we get Star Wars heroes like really failing and tons of people paying for it. And it's just nice to see that. It's kind of a different thing. It's a little more realistic, I think. And I know that Star Wars is not supposed to be realistic, but I like that it has a little more of a human element, because
there's consequences.
There's consequences. Like, all these humans and even the aliens are, have humanity to them, and that not everything goes off according to plan, and they screw up and they lose, and they have to learn to come back from that. Empire was the same way. Empire also, when it originally came out, nobody liked it. There's a lot of anger towards Empire. Over time, though, it aged well. And I wouldn't be surprised if something similar happened to this film. If we see 9 and we're like, oh, that's what they were doing, or oh, this makes more sense now because they did this, or maybe 9 will go off in a completely different direction. So I say, if you love the original trilogy, it will always be there for you. And also this movie looks really good. I still think Rogue One looks incredibly good for like Star Wars stuff. I really love Rogue One still. Like, I really, not even just for the Darth Vader stuff, just the look of that movie. I'm like, and that one, like you said, Levi, before, focuses on the little guys. So I like that too. So yeah, there you go.
What did you give it? What was your score?
I gave it you gotta check out the review. I can't tell you, that's gotta get those sweet views, baby. I do the money sign, but it's not. Anyway, share it around with a friend. So yes, I want to know what everybody is thinking about this film. Leave a little review down in the comments below about what you think of the film. If you agree with us or disagree, I completely understand. And again, I always try to tell people, like, I don't want, it's not like I'm personally attacking or defending a thing. It's just like, this is what I think of it. And it's like, if you, like, people come to me and say, like, Jimmy, I don't like Lord of the Rings. Does it kill me a little inside? Of course it does. But it's okay. I just say, like, I get it. They're super long movies. There's tons of stuff going on. They drag on. But for me, I'm like, I love them so much. Like, it's so good to me. Like, when I was 11, 12, and 13, that's when those movies came out for me. And for a lot of Star Wars fans, especially the older generation who love Star Wars, So they grew up with. They were in like the same position I was in. So if they take like, Lord of the Rings and they're doing like a TV show with it now or whatever, if it's crappy, I'm not gonna be like, they ruined it. It's like, okay, just new directors, new stuff, always changing it up. So there you go. So anyway, Levi, it's that time of the show that I like to salute our commander, Jonathan Larson, our $100 patron over on patreon.com. Jonathan, we salute you. Thank you so much. As Jonathan likes to say, their fate concerns me. Yours does not. Thank you so much. If you want to know how to be a producer, or I should say a commander, that we salute every episode, just check out patreon.com/critical-reviews. And you can see how to do that. Get a cool customized avatar like you just saw on the screen there. Now, Levi, it's that time of the show that I like to call, that you like to call, Timekillers. Yeah, I don't normally get to do that very often, but it felt good. Anyway, those are the games we've been playing, the movies we've been watching, and the TV shows we've been viewing. Levi, besides Star Wars The Last Jedi, what have you been killing time with, pal?
Ooh, I have been streaming a lot of Cuphead recently. Working on my streaming game. You've all been tuning in. Thank you so much. I haven't had much time to honestly kill.
That's fine,
because I've been super busy with work. But yeah, a lot of Cuphead. Rewatching Star Wars right now.
Are you digging Cuphead, by the way?
Love Cuphead. Love it. The bosses are fun. The action is fun. The gameplay is cool. I love platforming. There's something super challenging but simplistic about Cuphead that just feels good to play. I'm probably gonna play some tonight. I need to go to bed, but
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I've been up to. Mm-hmm.
On my end, besides Last Jedi, I just finished Resident Evil 4. Streaming that, it was good to finish. I can see why people like it. I'd give it like a 6 or 7 today, but by old school standards, I could see where people give it a lot higher. It's just kind of linear game or just shooting stuff. But yeah, fun game. I like Leon Kennedy. Let's see, what else have I been playing? Oh, Super Mario Odyssey. I was playing that tonight. Thanks to Levi here for lending me his Switch, and I've been enjoying it. I've beaten the main campaign, but I'm just kind of going around collecting some moons, just hanging out, doing some races. Pretty good. Besides that, nothing really super crazy to talk about as far as that type of stuff. I watched Force Awakens. I did a commentary on it recently, but besides that, nothing that I really need to talk about. Oh, started watching a little bit of Soul Eater. It's back on Netflix. Good show. Everybody check out Soul Eater on Netflix. It's perfect for Halloween, but you can watch this time of year. Anime, great. Yes, I love it so much. Anyway, it's time to move into that segment of the show, which is my personal favorite, community feedback and questions. Now, Levi, I asked our lovely Legionnaires one simple question. I asked them to give us a small review of The Last Jedi. The one and only Yoren Evers, our resident artist here, said, "It's not what I expected, so I initially didn't appreciate it. But despite still being critical of it, it gets better and better as I think about it more. They picked a direction and went for it full throttle." Game Over Review says 5.5 out of 10. That's all he said. Rick Hogue, good friend of the show, he had a lot to say about it, and I don't need to read the whole thing off because he wrote a lot, which was great. But he said the end result is a movie that feels like a series of separate vignettes with failure as a theme, rambling slowly forward until the projector and Resistance fleet runs out of gas, which I thought was very poignant. He does make a lot of good arguments, and he talks a little bit about where it kind of fits in society today. And I could go over this, but please check it out. It's on Twitter if you want to see it. But a lot of it's, talk about also too, a lot of not payoffs and kind of not hope being at the forefront. I'm not going to speak completely for him, but it goes on like that. And it's an interesting read. I would recommend it. J. Hunter Pearson says, Last Jedi was, thankfully, not the last time we'll see a Jedi. It felt like a departure from the familiar warm, cozy blanket J.J. Abrams knit for us with The Force Awakens. The Last Jedi felt more like a metallic survival blanket used to prevent hypothermia. It kept me warm, but not cozy. 7 out of 10. I really love how he worded that with the whole blanket thing. Very good. And last but not least, Liz Castor says, I was prepared for Finn to die and was disappointed when he didn't. I really liked the bonding between Rey and Kylo. The moment they touched was breathtaking. The casino adventure felt out of tone. Why bring Trico into the franchise? Which I thought was also very good. I'm sorry for anybody who got into Timekillers and they're like, why? Or I mean, into community feedback. They're like, why are there still spoilers? It should be fine. I'll try to mark that. Anyway, we have 2 questions here this week. Levi, first one. Acco Critical from Lil Red Winter, Anna, says, #Critical Podcast. That's how you reach us. if you were all Mario characters, who would you be? Levi, who would you be if a Mario character?
Oh, yikes.
You said one beforehand, and I didn't like it.
I said Yoshi. Just because Yoshi's so cute. I love him. Sure, I'll be the sidekick. I'll be Yoshi.
You want to be Yoshi?
Okay.
I like the look of Bowser, but I don't want to be like stealing Peach all the time. Mario's just so bland.
I know. That's why I didn't want to choose Mario.
But I don't want to be like Shy Guy looks cool, but I'm not a Shy Guy. I don't know, man. I always had a hard time picking characters.
Like a Toad.
Yeah. Can I be like Captain Toad Treasure Tracker? I don't know.
Captain Falcon.
I will be Captain Falcon. Yeah, I guess maybe Mario, but Mario's just so bland. Like he's just so like, he's there.
What about Waluigi?
I'll say Waluigi when he's like a super creep.
Yeah.
I think he's hilarious though. I don't know. That's a good question. Anyway, and then our buddy Ryan asks us, what color lightsaber would you have and why? Levi, what would your lightsaber color be?
Ooh. I like me some purple.
Yeah.
But I like me some orange and yellow too. Man, I don't know. Yeah, orange or purple for sure.
You gotta pick one.
Oh, yeah, purple, just because it's not done. It's only been done by one. So.
Yeah. For me, and this is not because I'd want to be a Sith, but I have to have a crimson. I need to have a red lightsaber. I need to. I would dress in all black. I totally would. Even if I was a Jedi, they'd be like, why are you dressed this way? And I'd be like, because I like it. Just that single red blade, baby. Oh, it's so good. It's classy. It's classy. Oh, I like it so much. Anyway, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like to see on the show at any time, just please tweet at us. Just use the hashtag Critical Podcast to any of us. I am at GoCritical. That's capital G or capital C. Or you can tweet at my personal account, which is at JimmyGood013. If you want to tweet at Levi, you can tweet at
Levi Fletcher.
There you go. As easy as that. I want to tell you guys that we are actually streaming from time to time. Like Levi alluded to earlier, he's playing some Cuphead. I just finished Resident Evil 4. I've been playing some XCOM 2 here and there, I forgot to mention, and then maybe even some Civilization 6 coming up here. But please check us out over on twitch.tv/critical reviews to see us streaming. Typically Monday and Thursday afternoons, but even weeknights for when Levi's around. So, yeah. I want to thank a few people. I want to thank This Is Dale for our amazing intro and outro music. And the one and only Yoran Evers, who I brought up earlier. He is not only a person who asks us questions, but he also, or even gives us feedback, but he gives us some great art for those of us who can, give him a commission for it. It's very, very good. He's a paid artist. He's very, very talented. And if you want to support him and us at the exact same time, you can check out patreon.com/critical reviews to see how you can support us today. Yes, he does commissions by himself, but he also helps us out there too. So if you want to get a cool avatar amongst other rewards, that's a really good way to do it. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. I hope you had a good time. Levi, thank you so much for coming in to talk about Star Wars with me. Joe is just not interested in Star Wars, man. I bring that horse to water.
You and I can talk about Star Wars for days on days. So.
Yes, and we'll probably talk about it some more as more information comes up. Anyway, thank you guys so much for stopping by. And just remember to adapt and overcome. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.